All right, hello, and welcome to another episode of the online experience. This one is, of course, going to be for Elden Ring. So, this might be the first video that I do of the online experience that is not going to be quite, all the positivity coming through. So, I absolutely love From Software and everything that they do with the Souls genre. I am a big fan of all this types of gameplay that they do with the lock-ons, the stamina systems, the get good, the stats, the swords, shields, armors, you name it. I'm actually a giant fan of all this stuff. There's only a couple games that From Software has made that I have not finished. With that being said, the online is definitely something that is kind of a sore spot in my book for From Software. Now, there is a difference between the co-op and the PvP, which means player versus player. In that aspect of co-op, we will say that yes, it is very cool that if need be or if want to, you can bring in a friend, co-op a boss fight, all that stuff. Now, when it comes to PvP, as you'll see here, there is a couple different game modes that we have. So there was a kind of add-on expansion that they did to the game called the Coliseum mode. They added it in, maybe it was a year ago or so, and what you could do is go online, PvP against other players, and there is videos all over YouTube and everything about like meta builds and strategies and this and that. But what this video is going to focus on, for the most part, is basically what is the online experience of Elden Ring. And in the online experience of Elden Ring, what we end up seeing is that there is definitely, so it's not so much meta. It's not so much this whole thing of like, okay, here is the best build, here is the best weapon, here is the best armor sets. It's not really that. In typical FromSoft fashion, the way to kind of go into PvP in this, what I was finding, which I did not win, I won one match online out of like maybe 8 of them that I did. The thing that I was really noticing, and you'll see in this first match, one of the first things I noticed right off the bat was the hitbox in the online on this is not great. But you also notice that every time I actually get a different opponent, because there's not too many people playing online, when I record this, I found maybe a handful of people. I could count on one hand how many people I've actually gone PvP against. But every single person had a different build. They had a different weapon. They had a different strategy that they were going into the PvP action, using. So, in that aspect, it is actually, it's, I wouldn't say there's a meta as much as people know how to just really use their setup. They've probably gone through hundreds of hours in the storyline, their story mode, single player, whatever you want to say, part of the game, and then they go online and they're like, okay, this can just wreck everything. I have a level 300 character. I got like 2,000 HP and all that. I was still getting wrecked by their setups. Again, it just comes down to time and also grind, and however many runes you want to try and pump out of a certain pathway in a certain part of a certain area of a map that is in here. You know what I'm talking about if if you've ever done rune farming. So when it comes to PvP, though, I would say this is maybe, I really hate to say one of the worst experience. I don't know if it might be one of the like top ones that just makes me go, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do this again. Just on the fact that, I don't know, this feels so forced. It feels like it's not needed here. I feel like they could have actually gone maybe even more DLC of something that is, I don't know if I'd even want them to do like a forced, co-op thing or anything, but just something else other than PvP. I don't know. I feel like when you're running around co-op, you should be able to do that in like a private lobby of sorts. So you can't have anybody jump in on your game. yes, that is a thing that you can do on here. You can either do a PvP, and there's a couple different modes of PvP, but I could only get one of them to actually work because it just seemed like it was showing up there was only like 4 people online, pretty much when I tried to do all that stuff. So I think this whole mode just kind of it just really fell off on the PS5 console at I think it's probably like 11 o'clock at night, and I could barely find 4 people to go in a PvP mode with. I don't think it's too popular. I think really what you're looking at is the co-op side of things. That is the most popular thing on this. Just to wrap up this, the PvP side of things, though, I did try a couple different builds. One that was a little bit of a smaller armor. Another one I tried to do a little bit of a tankier build. Either which way I went about it, it was just, everything felt kind of clunky, and it just not great. Like, so I do a lot of fighting games online, and I was thinking, well, maybe this is going to feel like, I've done For Honor in the past and everything. I think For Honor has actually a better hitbox in a way than what I was seeing in Elden Ring, which is saying something because For Honor is, that is spam fest also. And I will give the players credit on Elden Ring. It didn't really feel spammy. It just felt like they knew what they were doing. Like they've put 100+ hours into their build, and they know exactly the animation speeds and the attack timings and everything. It feels like everybody's gotten good with their setup, and they've gotten bored with the single player because they've played they could be on New Game Plus 3 or 4 or something, with 100 hours plus in there. That's what it really feels like you're going against online, like people with a lot of time in the game. So to get away from PvP, we'll go and we will talk about, well, technically this is still PvP, but outside of the Coliseum, we also have the Bloody Finger. Bloody Finger. So you get the Bloody Fingers. There's a Phantom Finger and there's a Golden Finger. You use the Bloody Finger, you can jump in on other people's games, and I don't know, this feels like such a tacked on game mode still, of like, why it's such a weird thing. Why give people the option to bully other players when maybe they're just trying to do co-op? And then on top of that too, again, you can't opt out of it. So you just I was actually doing a co-op, just helping out somebody with a co-op run of doing a couple boss fights, and we had invaders come in on the matchup, and there's no way of making your matchup private, which is such a weird thing. It seems like such an oversight. I get the get good thing, but you can't really get good if you have people jumping in on your matchup, or your lobby. So yeah, I don't know, just like running through and doing all this with the Bloody Finger stuff, it really does feel like kind of a cheap way of maybe invading and getting some cheap points if you have the the meta build setup or whatever. If you have like a ton of stats, it just feels like where you wouldn't even need to be building up your character anymore. You can come in and just mess with people's day. I don't know, this just feels like a very big time bully game mode, if you will, and for some people they would absolutely love that, for trolls and whatnot. And if you notice, there's a whole bunch of teabag and BM going on here, which again, it just feels like this all just feeds into one another of BM. Maybe that's what the developers are looking, to do with it, but I don't know. For me, I just kind of don't care for a game mode like that. So, yeah, again, this is maybe one of the first times where I'm kind of negative on the multiplayer. I've always been kind of negative on the FromSoft multiplayer, though, to be all the way honest. It is something that is a tack-on add-on to the From Software games. Now, if you want to call in a buddy and do co-op through the game, sure. I mean, we can have that game mode, but then it's also another reason why I say it's kind of a tack-on add-on is, so if you're doing co-op with the fingers and all that, like the Golden Finger, you put down your little sign on the ground, and then you can see the red one here, but there's a gold one also, and you can use that gold one to have your friends call you into their world, and then you can help them out with a boss fight, and then you go back to your world after the boss fight. So again, it's very limited on what you can do co-op wise in this, so it just feels like it's kind of just that helping hand if you need it. But the name of the game is still what you should be doing is learning the boss fight, learning that puzzle of like the animation timings and such, and then also grinding at your character so you get better as your character gets better. That is the point of a FromSoft title. So just like the whole system of matchmaking in this, and the fingers and all that, there's so many menus that you have to go through. So I mean, if you're looking to play this game co-op with a buddy, with a partner or whatever, I would definitely suggest maybe looking elsewhere, other games on that. But it is there if you really do want to use it and need it. Just be warned that it is kind of a pain in the butt to try and get all the matchmaking stuff to work. And then you also have people jumping in on your game, as you can see right here, the way I'm kind of jumping in on this. So yeah, I've always been kind of opponent against From Software even having multiplayer in their games because of this stuff. I'd much rather see them kind of focus on just adding more content to the game that is very much so usable content, other than just something that a handful of people like to jump in and kind of spam around in, I guess, if you will. So I know there's going to be some negative feedback on me saying that, but and this is like the first time I've been really negative in an online experience video. But yes, there is kind of a word of warning to anybody who has not experienced From Software titles. If you're brand new coming in with DLC or whatever, then just be warned that co-op can be a bit of a pain to try and deal with. And yeah, Elden Ring though, overall is a great game. I've put in a ton of hours into it, and if you're looking for a very solid single player experience, well, Elden Ring is right there. It is the reason why it is a Game of the Year winner, and it has so much love and praise and accolades and everything else in between. But yes, the online experience is not exactly as great as just the single player running around and having your own adventure experience that we all know and love in it. Again, between fingers and call sign or signs putting on the ground to call people in and all that, it's a little bit complicated and a little bit messy. PvP has a little bit of a weird hitbox issue with it. It definitely feels like the game is just meant to be played single player overall. With that being said, though, this is From Software, so that is kind of to be expected. Anyways, yeah, this has been Elden Ring, the online experience, and all I can say is if you want a good, solid experience of a grand adventure, go and check it out. But that's all for this one. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I will see you next time.